And in the moment you collapse that distance, something extraordinary happens within you. The struggle begins to dissolve. The frantic need to force outcomes fades away. You are no longer standing outside your desire looking in. You are standing inside it, living from it, breathing from it, thinking from it. And because consciousness always externalizes itself, the world begins reorganizing around the state you now occupy. This is the mystery most people never understand. They believe manifestation is about getting something they do not have. But manifestation is not getting, it is becoming. It is the movement from wishing into being. The moment you fully become the version of yourself who already possesses the life you desire, reality begins rushing to reflect that identity back to you. Think about the person who truly feels successful. They do not wake every morning wondering if success is possible for them. They move with certainty. Their decisions carry confidence. Their imagination no longer entertains failure as a permanent identity. And because their inner world is organized around success, the outer world continually mirrors opportunities, connections, and circumstances that support it. The same law applies to love, abundance, health, peace, and every other human desire. To live from the end means you stop asking life for permission to feel fulfilled. You stop postponing joy until evidence arrives. You stop saying, I will finally feel secure when the relationship appears, or I will finally feel confident when money comes, or I will finally feel peaceful when circumstances improve. No, you reverse the process completely. You understand that the feeling comes first, the state comes first, consciousness comes first. And the outer world simply follows the inner blueprint you consistently occupy. This is why imagination is sacred. It is not fantasy. It is not escape. It is the workshop of reality itself. Every invention, every relationship, every transformation first existed invisibly in the mind before it appeared physically in the world. The imaginal act is the seed. Reality is the harvest. And when you repeatedly return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you water that seed with emotional conviction until it hardens into fact. At first, the reasoning mind may resist this truth. It may look at present circumstances and insist nothing has changed. It may remind you of delays, disappointments, failures, or fears. But remember this carefully. The visible world is always delayed. It reflects previous states of consciousness, not your current inner transformation. So if you judge only by appearances, you will return to old states and recreate old outcomes. That is why persistence matters, not desperate effort, not obsession. Persistence in identity, persistence in assumption, persistence in returning inwardly to the version of yourself who already lives the reality you desire. The farmer does not plant a seed and then dig it up each day searching for proof. He trusts the unseen process taking place beneath the surface. And you must learn to trust consciousness in the same way. The unseen movement is real even when invisible. Bridges of events are already forming, circumstances are rearranging themselves. People are shifting, opportunities are unfolding, pathways you cannot yet perceive are quietly opening before you, but none of it begins outside you. It begins the moment you decide that your inner world is more powerful than appearances. And this is where faith becomes transformative. Faith is not hoping anxiously that life might improve someday. Faith is loyalty to the unseen reality you have already accepted inwardly. It is walking through uncertainty with the calm assurance that the invisible cause must eventually become visible effect. It is holding to the feeling of fulfillment even when the outer world has not yet caught up. The person who lives from the end understands something profound. They understand that identity creates experience. So instead of trying endlessly to change isolated circumstances, they change self. They become inwardly aligned with the reality they wish to experience. They no longer identify as unlucky, abandoned, overlooked, rejected, powerless, or delayed. They identify as chosen, supported, loved, abundant, guided, and favored. And because the world reflects identity with astonishing accuracy, reality begins mirroring this new conception back to them. You can feel this transformation when it begins happening within you. Your reactions soften, your fear weakens, your need to control every outcome disappears. You stop chasing because inwardly you no longer feel separate from what you desire. You begin carrying yourself differently. Your posture changes, your energy changes, your conversations change, even your silence changes because it is no longer filled with lack. There is a quiet magnetism in someone who already feels whole within themselves. Such a person does not need constant reassurance from the outer world because they have already given themselves the inner confirmation first. They do not panic over temporary circumstances because they know circumstances are fluid. They know consciousness is the true cause, and this inner certainty begins influencing every area of life. People respond differently to them. Opportunities appear more naturally. Synchronicities increase. Solutions arrive unexpectedly. Doors open with surprising ease. Not because the universe suddenly became kinder, but because their inner state changed and the world had no choice but to mirror it. That is the deeper meaning behind acting as if you are the luckiest person in the world. It is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is understanding that life reflects your dominant assumptions. So instead of assuming struggle, delay, rejection, or limitation, you begin assuming support, harmony, guidance, and divine favor. And slowly life reorganizes around those assumptions. This does not mean every moment becomes effortless or that challenges disappear instantly. It means your relationship with reality changes completely. You no longer interpret obstacles as punishment or proof of failure. You begin seeing them as transitions, adjustments, redirections, or preparation. You trust that even what appears delayed may actually be aligning itself perfectly behind the scenes. That trust changes your entire emotional atmosphere. And emotional atmosphere matters because your dominant emotional state shapes your perception, your decisions, your reactions, and ultimately your experience. Most people unknowingly rehearse fear every day. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They repeat stories of limitation. They mentally argue for why things cannot work. And because consciousness is always creating, life continues reflecting those rehearsed assumptions back to them. But once you awaken to this law, you begin becoming selective about what you entertain inwardly. You stop rehearsing failure. You stop worshipping appearances. You stop feeding old identities. Instead, you deliberately nourish the state you wish to embody. You begin speaking inwardly as the version of yourself who already lives the fulfilled reality. You begin imagining lovingly instead of fearfully. You begin expecting good instead of anticipating disappointment. You begin moving through life with the quiet conviction that what you desire is not distant from you but already unfolding through you. And eventually the line between imagination and physical reality begins dissolving. The things you once visualized start appearing naturally. Conversations happen almost exactly as imagined. Opportunities arrive in unexpected ways. People reflect the assumptions you hold about yourself and about them. And fulfillment begins feeling less like a miracle and more like inevitability. Because in truth, manifestation is not about forcing reality. It is about becoming inwardly congruent with the reality you desire until the outer world can no longer contradict it. This is why the greatest transformation is always internal first. The outer results are only echoes. The real miracle is the person you become in the process. The calmer mind, the steadier heart, the deeper trust, the quieter confidence, the release of fear, the understanding that you are not powerless before life, but participating in its creation through consciousness itself. And once you truly grasp this, you stop living as someone waiting for permission to begin life. You stop postponing peace. You stop delaying joy. You stop believing fulfillment belongs only to other people. You begin living now. You begin embodying now. You begin trusting now. You begin occupying the state now. Because you finally understand the great secret behind all manifestation. The world does not decide who you are. You decide who you are inwardly, and the world reflects that decision. So tonight and every day after this, do not ask whether your desires are possible. Ask instead whether you are willing to fully accept them within yourself before the outer world confirms them. Dare to live from the end. Dare to walk as though life is already unfolding in your favor. Dare to feel chosen before evidence appears. Dare to feel abundant before money arrives. Dare to feel loved before reassurance comes. Dare to feel successful before the results are visible. For the moment you persist in the assumption long enough for it to become natural, reality begins reshaping itself with astonishing precision. This is not fantasy. This is not coincidence. This is the law of consciousness. Your imagination is creative power. Your assumption is the blueprint. Your feeling is the force that animates it. And your life inevitably becomes the visible expression of what you have consistently accepted as true within yourself. So stand firmly in the state you desire. Protect it. Nourish it. Return to it whenever doubt appears. And remember always, you are not waiting for the universe to choose you. You are the operant power. You are the awareness shaping reality from within. And the moment you truly know that, life begins responding in ways that once seemed impossible. Because what you live inwardly, the world must eventually live outwardly. This piece centers on one core idea. Your inner state shapes your outer reality. It repeats that true change begins not with circumstances, but with identity, belief, assumption, and emotional alignment. Across all its sections, it returns to the same themes. Asterisk, become the version of yourself before the evidence appears. Asterisk, stop living from fear, lack, or approval seeking. Asterisk, assume the feeling of already having what you desire. Asterisk, trust timing instead of forcing outcomes. Asterisk, use gratitude, calm certainty, and inner alignment as creative forces. Asterisk, treat signs and synchronicities as reflections of consciousness, not as the source of power itself. Asterisk, shift from reacting to life into consciously shaping it. A concise quote that captures the essence of the entire message could be, the moment you stop waiting for life to change and begin living from the state of already being who you desire to become, reality starts rearranging itself around your assumption. Or a shorter version, your inner state is the blueprint. Life only mirrors what you consistently believe yourself to be. Or in a more Neville-inspired tone, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, remain faithful to it, and the world will have no choice but to reflect it back to you. This section expands the same core philosophy into the theme of wealth and abundance. Wealth is presented not as something chased externally, but as a state first embodied internally. The repeated distinction throughout the passage is between pretending and embodying. According to the text, true abundance begins when someone no longer emotionally identifies with lack, fear, hesitation, or scarcity. The central ideas are, asterisk, your assumptions about money shape your financial reality. Asterisk, wealth begins as an identity before it becomes visible circumstances. Asterisk, external conditions are reflections of inner beliefs. Asterisk, confidence, certainty, and emotional alignment are portrayed as the state that attracts abundance. Asterisk, the wealthy mindset is described as calm, assured, and free from desperation. Asterisk, the text argues that embodiment matters more than performance or appearances. A concise quote that captures the heart of this section could be, wealth is not something you chase. It is a state you embody, and once you truly become it within, the world begins to reflect it without. Or the world mirrors not what you wish for, but what you consistently assume yourself to be. Or in the same reflective tone as the passage, the moment you stop identifying with lack and begin moving through life with the certainty of abundance, reality starts reorganizing itself around your new state. A shorter cinematic line, money follows the state that no longer fears its absence. And a Neville-inspired version, assume yourself to already be the one who possesses abundance, and the outer world will conform to the conviction held within. Money is not drawn to force. It is not persuaded by desperation, struggle, or endless chasing. Wealth does not move toward the energy of fear, doubt, or scarcity. It responds to identity. It reflects the state of being you consistently occupy within yourself. The moment you stop seeing money as something outside of you, something distant that must be hunted down or fought for, everything begins to change. The outer world starts responding differently because your inner world has shifted. The opportunities you once overlooked become visible. The confidence you once searched for begins to rise naturally within you. The world mirrors back the person you believe yourself to be. Most people spend their lives pursuing wealth from a state of lack. They wake up believing they are behind, believing they must work harder just to deserve abundance. Every action they take is rooted in the feeling that they do not yet have enough. And because they identify with scarcity, they continue to recreate it. The mind always seeks to confirm the identity you hold about yourself. If you believe you are struggling, life will continue to present situations that reinforce struggle. If you believe you are unsupported, the world will reflect that belief back to you. But when you begin to embody abundance, reality starts to reorganize around that new identity. True wealth begins long before money appears in your hands. It begins in the way you think, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself through life. A person who truly feels abundant does not move with desperation. They do not make decisions from panic or fear. They trust themselves. They trust life. They trust that opportunities, resources, and prosperity are always available to them. This quiet certainty changes everything. It changes the energy behind your actions. It changes the way people respond to you. It changes the choices you make and the risks you are willing to take. The moment you stop chasing wealth and start embodying abundance, you stop living as someone who hopes for prosperity and start living as someone who naturally expects it. and reality has no choice but to mirror the person you have decided to become. In the end, the greatest transformation is not the amount of money you earn, the possessions you acquire, or the status you achieve. The greatest transformation is the shift in who you believe yourself to be. Everything in your external world begins with the identity you carry within. Wealth is not something that suddenly appears out of nowhere, nor is it reserved for a chosen few. It is a reflection of consciousness. It is the natural outcome of the beliefs, assumptions, and emotional states you repeatedly embody. The world has always been responding to you, mirroring back the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you deserve. For too long, many people have been conditioned to believe that abundance exists outside of them. They have been taught to chase success, to struggle endlessly, to sacrifice their peace in the hope that one day they will finally feel secure, worthy, or complete. But this speech reveals a deeper truth. Wealth does not begin in the bank account. It begins in the mind. Prosperity is not first created through force or endless effort. It is created through identity, through assumption, through the quiet and unwavering decision to see yourself as someone who is already abundant. The moment you stop identifying with lack, life begins to change. The moment you stop repeating stories of limitation, fear, and struggle, you create space for a completely different reality to emerge. Every thought you entertain, every word you speak, every feeling you dwell in is shaping your experience. If you continue to affirm scarcity, you will continue to encounter it. But if you choose to embody abundance, confidence, and certainty, the external world will gradually reorganize itself around that new state of being. Reality cannot help but mirror the consciousness you consistently occupy. This is why embodying wealth is so important. It is not about pretending to be rich. It is not about forcing appearances or trying to convince others that you are successful. True abundance is internal before it is external. It is the calm assurance that you are supported by life. It is the deep knowing that opportunities are always available to you. It is the ability to move through the world without fear constantly dictating your decisions. When you truly embody wealth, your posture changes, your energy changes, your choices change, and eventually your circumstances change as well. The speech reminds us again and again that the outer world is not the cause, it is the effect. Your bank account, your opportunities, your relationships with money, all of it is reflecting your dominant inner assumptions. If you see yourself as someone who is always struggling, life will continue to confirm that belief. But if you begin to see yourself as someone who is naturally abundant, capable, supported, and prosperous, your reality must eventually align with that vision. This is the law of consciousness at work. The external world always follows the internal state. It is also important to understand that abundance is not only about money. Wealth is a way of being. It is the feeling of expansion rather than contraction. It is freedom instead of fear. It is trust instead of anxiety. A truly abundant person does not merely possess money. They possess peace of mind. They move through life with confidence because they know that their worth is not dependent on temporary circumstances. They understand that they themselves are the source. And because they see abundance within themselves, they naturally attract more experiences that reflect it. Throughout this entire message, one truth remains constant. You must stop waiting for the world to give you permission to feel abundant. Most people wait for evidence before they believe in themselves. They think they must first see money, success, or opportunities before they can finally relax into confidence. But creation works in the opposite direction. You believe first, you embody first, you claim the identity first, then reality responds. The inner shift always comes before the outer manifestation. The speech also reveals how powerful self-concept truly is. The way you define yourself determines the life you experience. If your self-concept is rooted in fear, limitation, or unworthiness, then no amount of external success will feel stable because your subconscious identity will continue pulling you back towards struggle. But when you consciously build a new self-image, one rooted in abundance, worthiness, confidence, and trust, you begin creating a completely different reality. Your decisions improve, your energy changes, your expectations rise, and life begins reflecting that elevated identity back to you. Another profound lesson within this message is the understanding that money responds to energy, not desperation. Chasing wealth from fear only reinforces the feeling that it is always outside of you. But when you relax into the certainty that abundance is your natural state, you stop forcing and start allowing. You begin operating from trust rather than panic. You no longer cling tightly to every dollar in fear of losing it. Instead, you develop a healthy relationship with money based on flow, gratitude, and confidence. And that shift alone can completely transform your financial experience. The speech ultimately calls you to reclaim your power. It asks you to stop identifying with old limitations, stop repeating stories of struggle, and stop seeing yourself as powerless before circumstances. You are not merely reacting to life. You are participating in the creation of it every single day through your assumptions, emotions, beliefs, and self-concept. Your consciousness is shaping your reality whether you realize it or not. The question is not whether this process is happening. The question is what kind of reality you are choosing to create through the state you occupy. So the final message is simple yet life-changing. Become the person you wish to be before the world gives you proof. Think from abundance instead of toward it. Speak from certainty instead of fear. Walk through life as someone who already knows they are supported, worthy, and prosperous. Stop asking whether wealth is possible for you and begin assuming that it already belongs to you. Because the moment you fully accept abundance within yourself, reality begins moving to reflect that decision. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you consistently believe yourself to be. And once you truly embody the consciousness of wealth, confidence, and abundance, the world can no longer mirror lack back to you. Everything begins with self-concept. Everything begins within.